The chart says we moved sideways. The ocean says we didn't. That is the first sign the wall is up.
Iran can launch boats, but it can't run them like a fleet if the digital map lies to every captain at once.
We aren't just blocking the signal. We are feeding the receivers a reality that looks perfect until you hit the rocks.
A swarm needs timing. If my clock is 4 seconds off from my wingman, the formation is dead. When the coordinates start to drift, the launch order becomes a gamble no commander wants to take.
We've seen coordination fail before a single shot is fired. 2 boats, 1 target, but 2 different ideas of where they are.
Jamming is a scream. Spoofing is a whisper that sounds exactly like your own thoughts.
A jammed receiver tells you it's broken. A spoofed receiver stays calm while it walks you into a trap.
The screen looks steady. It says we are in the channel. The sound of the surf says we are not.
That is how a swarm breaks. It doesn't explode, it simply dissolves into individual, confused actors.
The machine isn't failing. It's doing perfect math on a lie we can't see.
The question isn't if we can fool them. The question is how long they can survive the confusion we've created.
To maintain the wall, you have to dominate the entire electromagnetic spectrum, not just one frequency.
We don't need to ping them to know they're there. We listen to the silence they leave behind. This is the architecture of non-kinetic sea control. It is a cage made of math and power. The heart of the wall is SEWIP Block 3, which isn't just a shield, it's an active software-defined weapon.
We don't just jam a signal. We reach into their hardware and tell it to ignore the truth.
A missile magazine is finite. A soft kill magazine is limited only by the ship's fuel and cooling capacity. We can wrap a merchant ship in a pocket of false data that makes it invisible to their coastal radars.
The effect scales because it's networked. One ship sees it, the entire fleet acts on it instantly.
Is it a destroyer? Or is it a ghost? If we guess wrong, we are out of the fight.
The system learns. It identifies new Iranian signals and builds a counter frequency in milliseconds. When we turn it on, the air itself becomes a barrier they cannot communicate through. Public data shows the ghosts. Ships sailing over land are the fingerprints of a theater-wide spoofing operation.
When the warnings start hitting the bridge, you stop trusting the autopilot and go to manual.
We aren't just hiding ships. We're creating thousands of fake ones to flood their decision cycle.
The machine says there are 20 ships. My eyes say there is only the sea.
Confusion leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to the total loss of the tactical initiative. We win the fight before they even know where the front line is located.
This is the invisible wall. It doesn't break hulls, it breaks the will to fight.
When the invisible wall is ignored, the enforcement becomes visible, precise, and permanent.
The goal isn't to sink the hull. The goal is to remove the vessel's ability to choose its own path.
A single Super Hornet can disable 2 ships in one sortie without ever dropping a bomb on the crew.
We use the gun on the MT Hansna. Not a missile. Just enough kinetic energy to delete the rudder.
There was no explosion. The ship simply stopped obeying the captain. It became a ghost.
If you hit the propulsion chain through the stack, the ship stays afloat but goes nowhere.
Surgical strike isn't a metaphor here. It is an operational description of disabling a machine. Every disabled ship becomes a floating billboard, warning others that the blockade is real.
When you see a ship like yours drifting helpless, you start asking if the cargo is worth the risk.
A sinking is a tragedy. A disablement is a multi-year legal and financial catastrophe for the owner.
The insurance companies aren't waiting for a sinking. They are canceling coverage the moment the rudder goes.
The most important tell is the empty tankers. They are trying to reach the loading points, but they can't.
If the empty ships don't arrive, the oil has nowhere to go. The tanks are almost full. The blockade at sea has become a chokehold on the entire Iranian economy. A reservoir is a living system. If you shut it in too fast because storage is full, you risk losing the field's natural drive.
This is the nightmare for Iranian engineers. Once water enters the wellbore, that production is gone forever.
They are being forced to kill their own future production just to keep the current system from exploding.
The flares are too high. They are burning off gas because the pumps have nowhere to send the oil.
When you see sheens at the berths, it's a sign of terminal stress. The system is leaking because it's overpressurized.
The anchorage is a parking lot. No one is moving in, and no one is moving out.
The pilots have stopped coming out. The terminal is effectively closed, even if they won't admit it.
This is the first public receipt. You don't need classified data to see a blockade. You just need to watch the traffic stop. The second receipt is the ghosts. Ships don't sail through mountains unless someone is rewriting their GPS reality.
My own screen says I'm in the middle of the desert. That's when you know the wall has reached you.
The noise in the public data isn't a glitch. It is the digital exhaust of a massive electronic warfare operation.
We can make one ship look like 100, or 100 look like none at all.
By the time the commercial receivers realize the signal is fake, it's already the only signal they can see.
When the screen goes dark, you are no longer a commander. You are just a man lost at sea.
The receipts are everywhere. You just have to know how to read the noise. Back pressure isn't just a logistics problem. It's a physical threat to the integrity of the wellhead itself.
When the storage at Kharg hits the limit, fields like Gacharon have to stop pumping within hours.
If crude sits still in these pipes for too long, it waxes. You don't just turn it back on later.
The refineries are choking. They are burning the wealth of the nation because the ships are not coming.
This is the sound of a national budget evaporating in real time. The wall is a fiscal executioner.
Iran is trying to go analog to beat the spoofing. They are bringing out the paper and the sextants.
A paper chart does not tell you where your wingman is in the dark at 40 knots.
Analog navigation works for a single boat. It fails for a coordinated swarm that needs microsecond timing.
If I use the lamp, I tell the Americans exactly where I am. If I don't, I am alone.
They've deployed hardened receivers. But even the best shielding can't filter out a spoof that looks exactly like the real thing.
The new gear is supposed to be safe, but it still says the north is where the east should be.
Inertial systems drift. Without a GNSS fix to reset the clock, the error grows until the mission is impossible.
Even the magnets are lying to us now. The entire world has become a hall of mirrors.
The proof of the wall isn't in the boats we sink. It's in the boats that give up and go home. Iran is fighting a ghost. And the ghost is winning.
The MT Sevda is the textbook example. One hit, zero fire, and a propulsion system that will never turn again.
If you sever the shaft, the engine can run at full power and the ship still won't move an inch.
At these speeds, the pilot isn't aiming for the ship. He's aiming for a specific 3-foot section of the steering gear.
The boat didn't explode, it just died. And now a piece of metal floating in the path of a giant.
We want the crew to live. A living crew is a witness to the total futility of the Iranian defense.
A drifting ship is a nightmare for everyone. It's a mine that can think, and it's right in our way.
It takes days to move these hulks. Days where the loading berths at Kharg remain empty and the pressure builds. The fire is out, the mission is over, and the ship is now a multi-billion-dollar anchor. The swarm depends on a shared digital consciousness. When we kill the link, the swarm becomes a collection of lost individuals.
I can see the other boats, but I cannot speak to them. We are a fleet of the deaf and the blind.
Without coordination, the swarm's only tactic is to run. And they are running in the wrong direction.
They are watching us fail. They don't even need to shoot to know that we have lost the day.
The psychological wall is just as real as the electronic one. Their commanders no longer believe they can win. The sea is ours. Not because we sank their fleet, but because we deleted their ability to use it. The wall is holding. And the pressure behind it is about to reach the breaking point.
The pressure doesn't stop at the pier. It moves back through the pipelines, into the storage farms, and finally into the earth itself.
When you shut in a high-pressure well,
You aren't just turning a valve. You're risking a permanent loss of the reservoir's natural drive.
We see the empty tankers waiting in the Gulf of Oman. They are the moving storage that Iran can no longer reach.
Kharg Island is the heart of the system. If the heart can't pump out, the whole body starts to swell with unusable crude.
Tehran is facing a brutal choice. Keep pumping into a full system and risk a leak, or shut down the fields and lose the revenue forever.
The internet sees the ghosts first. Ships that appear to be sailing through the Iranian desert at 20 knots.
AIS is a broadcast of what the ship thinks is its position. If we change the GPS feed, the AIS simply reports the lie.
I've seen my own ship's track on the public monitor, drawing perfect circles in the middle of a mountain range.
Public data is always noisy, but this isn't noise. This is a coordinated pattern of digital displacement. Random glitches vanish. A theater-wide electronic blockade creates repeated, structured oddities that anyone with a browser can find.
Predictability is the currency of the sea. When the map turns messy, the insurance rates turn vertical.
The brokers don't care about the invisible wall. They care about the fact that a safe route now carries a 400% premium.
For us, a bad fix is a mission failure. For a tanker, a bad fix is a reason for the captain to drop anchor and wait for a week.
Every disabled tanker is a file that every insurance underwriter in London is reading with a red pen. The wall isn't just a military barrier. It is a financial and physical chokehold that is tightening every hour.
Iran is trying to fight back by flooding the air with their own noise, hoping to drown out our spoofing signals.
Their jamming is loud, but it's predictable. We just step around it and keep the spoofing active. In a strange way, their noise gives us a baseline. It makes our false signal look even more like a legitimate correction.
The more power we put into the air, the more lost we become. We are screaming into a mirror.
They've switched to pure inertial navigation, but without a GPS reset, the error grows by 500 meters every hour.
The old ways fail us too. In these crowded waters, the metal of the tankers pulls the needles away from the north.
A swarm isn't a swarm if the boats can't see each other's data. It's just a dozen confused captains in the dark.
Another boat has found the bottom. They thought they were in deep water. The map was a lie.
Crews are refusing to leave the site of the coast. The blue water Iranian Navy has been pushed back into the shallows.
They've gone silent. Not because they're hiding, but because they've given up on trying to coordinate.
The operators are exhausted. Every time they think they've found a clear frequency, we're already there waiting for them.
The machines have surrendered. And soon, the men will have no choice but to follow.
We don't need to move the fleet. The wall is doing the work for us. 24 hours a day, at the speed of light.
0 missiles fired, 0 lives lost. And the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed to the enemy.
The wall is no longer a theory. It is the dominant reality of modern naval warfare.
When you stop a flow this massive, the kinetic energy has to go somewhere. It turns into a physical hammer inside the pipes. The pumps aren't designed to push against a closed system. They are literally vibrating themselves to pieces, trying to move the unmovable.
You can see the glow from 50 miles away. They are burning off the pressure because the tanks are at the absolute limit.
The choke is moving backward. Because they can't export crude, the refineries are backing up, and the local gas stations are running dry. This is the physical receipt of an electronic blockade. A silent refinery in the middle of a war zone.
Even our own fuel is failing. We are burning the dregs of the system because the clean supply has stopped.
Every day these wells stay shut, the skin of the reservoir hardens. Reopening them will cost billions they don't have.
A ship that doesn't move starts to rot from the inside out. The hull stress is climbing every hour it sits in the current.
Some are trying to run dark. They turn off the transponders and pray the night is thick enough to hide a 1,000-foot hull. You can't hide a mountain of steel from a radar that doesn't need light to see. We found them before they cleared the coast.
We don't even need to shoot. We can reach into their bridge and trigger every emergency alarm they have at once.
The bridge is screaming that we're sinking, that the engine is on fire, but the sea is calm. It's a digital ghost.
The crews are breaking. No amount of hazard pay is worth a bridge that lies to you about whether you're alive or dead.
The movement has stopped. The blockade is no longer an action. It is a permanent state of being.
The invisible wall has become an inescapable cage. And the key is held in a server room 300 miles away.
The failure has reached the refineries. With nowhere to send the finished product, the entire national energy grid is beginning to oscillate.
They told us to wait for a clear signal. We have been waiting for 3 weeks. The sea belongs to the ghosts now.
This is the asymmetric victory. We are spending pennies on electricity to delete billions of dollars in their national wealth.
We can do this forever. We rotate the crews, update the software, and the wall stays exactly where we put it.
The definition of sea control has changed, so it's no longer about who has the biggest guns, but who has the cleanest data.
The Navy is starting to whitelist specific hulls. If you have the right digital key, the wall opens for you. If you don't, you stay outside.
This is the new toll booth.
To pass Hormuz, you don't pay in cash. You pay in compliance and digital transparency.
The world is moving past us, and we're standing on the shore of a sea we no longer understand.
The most successful blockade in history didn't require a single ship to be sunk. It only required the truth to be managed.
The invisible wall is now a permanent feature of the theater. We've turned the strait into a digital fortress.
Trust is returning, but it's a different kind of trust. We don't trust the stars anymore, we trust the network.
If you want to understand the future of conflict, stop looking at the missiles. Start looking at the signals. Subscribe to Report and Record for more theater-level breakdowns of current geopolitical events. Share this with someone who still thinks sea control is about the size of the fleet.
The wall is up, and it isn't coming down.